So, wrecked my my bead buster there. Yeah, look at that. So I'm noticing something here. This lip from welding, and this little burr here. So if you look at these cuts in the rim there, it's putting some sizable nicks in the tires. Gets me every time. Really need more leverage. All right, so that one didn't go according to plan. No. Just feels like something's gonna tear your hand out when you're trying to have a nice day. It's tough. Someone did tons of work. And here it looks like the dog chewed it. There are rivets everywhere. A couple of things going on here. Still working on the Big Bear. I have an electrical issue that's really kind of taking its time, really kind of beating me up to find, but I will get it. So while I'm taking a break from that, my brother and my sister-in-law bought 4 new tires for the Big Bear for my mom. So we got to get the old tires off the rims cleaned up, and I kind of wanted to show you my process for it because I found a way that works well for me, but it's kind of a combination of things. So you'll recognize this. This is the Harbor Freight tire changing tool. Get them at Harbor Freight, get them all over Amazon, etc. And to get the leverage once there's a tire on here, I had to extend out with some 2x4s. This is working well. I've had a real hard time breaking beads on old rusted rims. I couldn't break a single bead with this. So in partnership with my bead breaker, this guy, I'm able to break beads. And once the beads are broken, pop it on here, work and get the tires off. But also having one tool for getting the tire off the rim really isn't adequate. So partnering it with the bar here helps me get over that hump. And the other thing, working with tires that got a little rust on the beads, is hitting them with a little bit of oil before you go at it. Really simplifies things. So I thought I'd slow down having done 3 and show you the 4th because it's actually going pretty well. And changing tires has been typically just a pain. And especially if you want to clean up the rims, you get the tires off, and if you take them somewhere, you take the rims back, clean them up, then you go back a second time to get the tires on. So I'm liking this. You'll also notice I have boxes piled around here. So starting to save boxes in the basement because a lot of the leftover parts, some people have been asking me about parts from spare motors and second quads, and so things like this. We're going to get these up on eBay. This is a pull start off an 86 Moto 4 YFM 200 DX. Bolts onto a few of those models there. But great working condition. We just don't need it, so I'm going to look to pass it on. So I'll put a link to the eBay store down in the description. And if you have parts you see me not using and all that, certainly shoot me a note. If you can use it, great. I'd rather see it be used. The other thing I'll mention, in case you noticed in the background, there is more content coming on the blaster. My wife got me a great set of Nerf Pro pegs, so I have put that on since we last had an update on this one, and a front bumper is on there. So I've been riding this around, getting it tuned in, jetted in. I will mention I am on a 270 jet here. This was it's a 230 stock jet, but with the DG pipe and with the 3mm stroker and with an open air box. With an open air box, those combinations I've needed to upjet. I was running a 250, still too lean. Felt like you're kind of hitting a restrictor when you're just wide open heading up the road. So now we're up at 270, starting to hit a sweet spot. So 4 jet sizes bigger for running the Uni 2-stage open air box, DG muffler, and a 3mm stroker in there. No porting, no polishing, etc. The reason I couldn't get the cover on is running this Resi Shock on here. Can't fit the cover. Some more content coming on that, but really trying to get the Big Bear finished and get all of this cleaned up before it gets too cold to really work outside effectively, because it's coming. We're closing the end of the 2nd week of October here, and I got to get this guy all cleaned up, parted out. Yeah, I got stuff to do. These are the new tires we have going on, some Sun F tires, bi-directional. Great big deep lugs on here, thicker than my thumb, but you have the same traction on these whether you're in forward or reverse. So there's the fronts. I got 2 rears there, but I got one more to get off the original rim here. First things first, let the air out. Take out the stem, or take out the valve, excuse me. And I hit it with oil. And I've made another video on using this guy, but I'm just gonna walk this guy around the rim here, pushing down until the bead pops, and watching out that I don't clamp so tight that this is right up against the bead, then it can't go anywhere, you break the feet off. And just work them in. And work it around. I think we got 3 tires out of this one. Feet have now peeled off. Bent in, so only way to get this last one done is going to be to make that Harbor Freight tire changer work. I like this. They're finicky. I like this. This is my second one. Alright, so that one didn't go according to plan. Wrecked my my bead buster there. Did 3 tires, but on the 4th it bent the feet out. Second one of those that's happened on. It's tough, and sometimes what'll happen is I get the feet. So after 3 tires, I mangled the feet on my bead buster. And what you got to watch out for in these is sometimes you get the feet caught on the bead here, and then you have a real problem pushing against because you're pinched against here. So you always got to watch out for that, because that'll bend these feet. And rusted beads don't help you at all trying to go through these. I do like this tool. I am going to get another one. I just got to be a little more careful with it. Wish they made one that was just a hair beefier than the XB455. Over here, I've set the tire down on the Harbor Freight tire changer. I'm gonna lock it in with the collar here. And on this tire, the lip is smaller with this side up than the other side. So I'm gonna go with a small side lip up first to break this side out, because I find that easier. Spear end, I'll call it. Gonna reach in, kind of keeping the metal, not the circular part of the bar, the square part popped in there. Rest right over. Now this is key, because Before, as I wanted to spin this around, the tire kept falling back on itself. And you also see it wants to spin, which is why I put these 2x4s down below, so I can stand on them, get that leverage. I'll use my my 16-inch bar here and just hold like that, and then I can walk around. I'll just leave this hooked in. Probably don't even need it now. Probably don't need it at all. Yep, don't need it now. There's the first layer. Pull it up, reach down through. Sometimes I shift the tire, but same thing, and I'll do the same thing. I'll reach down through the tire, hook the lip underneath here, and then try to stand on these 2x4s. And walk it around. So now I've got them off. Now I can clean up the rims. So really not too bad. It works. That was one 2x4 for reference. The legs sticking out here. Each of these legs is about 20 inches. Just so for a frame of reference. And you saw me struggling there, and what I found is depending on which side of the tire I was on the rim, I had to adjust these out to get that leverage, because this foot, we'll call it, kept wanting to slip off, you know, the rim down into the rubber. So a little bit of a fight. So this can work, a little bit of patience. And I think what I'm actually going to do is wire wheel the rim while it's on the stand, because I really want to clean all this up. I'm going to have to get the oil off, because the idea is to hit this with some paint and make it shiny and clean again. All right, that washing exercise was really just to get all the oil off from me breaking the beads on these things here. Now we're going to set them out in the sun, and we'll let them dry, and then I'll do more wire wheel cleanup. Really going to hit them pretty hard through here. Probably get a wire wheel on the grinder to really bring these down as clean as I can. And then we're going to find some appropriate paint, clean these up, and I suspect I'm going to have to, you know, for the paint, pull the valve stems. Maybe I can tape those off. They were all working. All the valve stems are fine, so maybe I won't have to mess with those, but let these dry, wipe them down, keep cleaning them up, and we'll get these painted and keep going from there. So more to come. Thank you guys for kind of sticking with it, because this has been kind of on and off for some time, and I am bogged down on this electrical issue. We'll get it. We will get it. It's just, it's been really elusive. All right, a few days later, and I wanted to come back out because I wanted to finish off the tire changing video. We've been up through taking tires off. Now we gotta get tires back on the rims, but I had some time between to clean up the rims. Let me show you these here. So let's start with these rims. A lot of rust in and around the beads, and you'll see here as you look in, and I'll give you some other examples here. The paint is kind of covered in a little bit, but really took flapper discs and a wire wheel, and those flapper discs really get it back to a nice shine on that bead, smoothing everything out for putting the tire back on. It really was paying attention, because if you look in here, there's pitting around the rim for the rust, and really wanted to clean up as much of that as I could. And these rims, they're dented just about everywhere. You see that there. So I want to get as clean as I can for a good bead setting. Also using some bead setting compound, and I'll put an image up on the screen for this because the bottom came all smashed in during shipping, so I taped it to hold it together. But this stuff is really great. I go ahead and I put it, you know, around the bead on the rim, and then I also kind of rub it along the tire, because when I go and I use the tire changer to set these back on, that becomes really important. So between taking the old tires off, came in here, spent time getting all the loose rust off inside, outside, cleaned it up, washed it, and then painted. And I really did, this is a pretty lightweight paint job. This is a semi-gloss Rust-Oleum protective enamel. This is not a high temp paint. This is not a paint like a VHT caliper paint, which is a much higher quality paint. This is going to chip and flake as soon as we get out there. But I didn't want that silver, and I can touch up as I go. These rims have seen some better days. So you see, I do have two of these on the rims, one rear, one front. Bead is set. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the second half of this, putting the new tires onto the rims using this tire changer. We're going to do the front one first here, and the way we're going to set this up, inside there's one side that has a lip that is narrower, and we want that narrower side up when we're pushing the tire on. We want to get some of that tire rim down inside here, so we'll get just a little more play. A lot more difficult to put the tire onto the rim if you're going for the thick side. So we'll end up thin side up on here. And I did also put it on the bottom for when I go to set the bead, making it a little easier for that rubber to slip onto the bead. Now for pressing the tire on for the first side, I've had pretty good luck just pressing it over. Let's see what kind of luck I have today. Get my gloves set up. And I'm doing this at the valve stem. Clamp so it doesn't walk around. And I've just shifted to the other side so you can see the feet that I have on here. I've screwed 2x4s in. This was an 8-footer that I cut, so it's about 4 foot by 4 foot. I would actually get another 2x4, or if I were doing this again, and extend this out farther because you really want that leverage sometime. You also see I've got one leg braced up against the bottom of this deck to give myself a little extra leverage. And I'm bracing on the one that's solid all the way through. This side is cut and it's just not enough. So what I would do is get another 2x4 and make this twice as thick to make this even stronger. So let's see today. You see, this is holding it from slipping. So I'm noticing something here. This lip from welding and this little burr here, it's putting some sizable nicks in the tires. So if you look at these cuts in the rim there, look at that. That's this guy tearing in. So I'm going to hit this with a grinder, smooth this all out. And you see the struggle is dinging up the edge of the rim something fierce, even with all this extra lube. So, and I will be getting longer leverage on the bottom unless I can bolt this into the ground or a deck somewhere. Really need more leverage. Really need more leverage. Okay, we've taken that hump down. That's off. Beveled the edges. All right, we took that bump off this side. Took that big bump off here. I'm going to go on the back here and take this big casting mark off because that's pretty sharp. Should be on the back. That shouldn't touch the tire, but let's not have it there. All right, let's hit this with some of that tire bead setting compound. You know what, I don't even like that casting down in there. I'm going to clean that up too. Okay, we've taken casting imperfections off all over the place now. Let's see if this is going to work better for us. Lubing the tool this time. Made it tougher on myself because I was trying to set it actually onto the bead. Let's try it again. There it is. Would have gone a whole lot easier, but I was setting on the bead. Okay, that one proved to be a learning experience. So reviewing afterwards, you can see scuff the paint all around the edge, and places where these big dents are in the rim, very difficult to get the tool across because it wants to drop down in. So if I want to touch that up, I'll be touching that up on the quad. But now that we have taken all the casting burrs out of the tool, let's see if we can get the rear tire to go a little easier. Yeah. All right, I also just put the bead compound on both sides here. Let's see how we do. That was easy. Not too much. There it is. All right, much easier. That'll work. So what have I learned having done 4 tires now? A couple of things. Bent rims are difficult, and use bead setting compound. It's like a lube, better than oil, and lube both sides of the rim and lube the tire as well, and lube the tool. This last tire was a whole lot easier, and had I not had weird legs down here, probably could have gotten enough leverage and done it in one push. That needs to be rebuilt a little more solid. But lubing in the bead, lubing around, this tire I didn't get any nicks in going across, having cleaned up all of the casting burrs on here. So if you get these tools, watch out for that. So now I've got to set the bead, and this is always a little bit spooky. Yeah, a little bit spooky. Gets me every time. All right, continuing to move along here, rebuilt the rear brake. A couple of things I had to do: find a washer because this spring was pushing over the catch here, which meant there wouldn't be any tension to hold this guy from just spinning and falling off. A little tough to adjust this brake because to adjust the drag, I'd have to have all 4 wheels in the air because it's always on 4-wheel drive. So a little tough to get this all set right. Now this Big Bear, the original one, was missing the outer cover on the brakes, so I just pillaged that off. But to do that, I had to grind out 2 out of the 3 bolts that were holding it on, which was the same challenge here I had to do because 2 out of the 3 had been cut off, so I had to clean those up. And you see here I ended up cutting in Phillips head and then grinding off, and it's just, everything is just slow going. You see also the condition of the skid plate on this one here, trying to protect the drain bolt. This one is in better shape, so we're going to use it, run it. I have to check that fluid level. So it's just slowly, a little bit at a time, but we're going to get this back together at this point. And that's going to sit in the wheel well. I'm not painting the rear on the swing arm here. All right, time to pause and catch everybody up here because there's been a lot behind the scenes. So I got bogged down in an electrical issue. Troubleshooting that electrical issue, and I went up and down those harnesses, stators, coils, key switch, handlebar controls, everywhere. I just couldn't find it. So I ended up taking the ATV to a local shop and saying, hey, can you guys look through? Here's a situation that I missed something simple. So the good news is they validated all the work that I had done. The bad news is they also weren't able to find why I had lost spark. Now they checked stator, coil, boots, you know, they went through all the same things except the harness. They didn't go through the harness. So I was back to thinking, you know, somewhere in the harness. So 2 harnesses, issue travels from harness to harness between each of these 87 Big Bears. So I finally came to the conclusion that I was going to do a harness swap from a later generation Big Bear. So, yeah. So having some conversations in some Facebook groups, I found a fella who was parting out a 1990 Big Bear 350. Now that harness is similar, but it's a different generation. The 1990 harness did away with the thermal relay up front, and it moved the CDI to the back of the quad, closer to all the action. Everything's plugging in, instead of running all that wiring back to the front. So what we have here, we have a 1990 harness. Now I put in that harness and I got no crank. And so you'll see here, I have carried over because I'm able to just plug in the 30 amp blade fuse because with no crank, I checked the fuse looked good. But when I put an ohm meter across, open line. So that was bad on the used harness that I got. So swap this in. Swapping this in, I get crank. Here's the CDI. So this CDI, the black grounds to frame. So it was not a direct plug-in for the 87. Also, the plug matchup for the stator doesn't match up. The stator in the 87 is a dual pickup. Here is one of the 87 stators. So you get your, let's see here, here you go. There's a dual pickup setup. Near as I could find, one of these picks up is for starting and one is for running. I don't know which one, and I don't know a whole lot about it. And then, so let's see, running out of those, there's your yellow, green, gray, blue for those pickups. And then you have your source, your brown, your red plugging in. So this didn't match up to the 1990, so I had to swap out to a different stator. The 1990 stator is a single pickup. And then your source are also integrated into the connector instead of having 4. You know, you still have 4, and I'll go show you, but it's not 2 pair for pickup and 1 for source here. Here we go, coming out. So what we end up having is just 1 pair is your source and 1 pair is your pickup. So I had to swap stators. I had to swap CDI and then plugged in the harness. Everything else, I had to replace a connector here or there. All goes in. So I know you're dying to know what happened. That was it. I have spark now. One other thing, had to swap out the left handlebar control. The left handlebar control is a different configuration than the 87. Off run being this up down toggle, and your lights for high low, and off left to right here. And here are the controls off the 87. High low is up on top, and here's your off and run. So just these buttons are swapped. Other than that, they would plug in. So in theory, this would have worked. This was working. This was working, but no spark. So ultimately, what I ended up swapping out to make it get spark back, left handlebar control, CDI, and a harness from a 1990 and a stator. So my issue was somewhere down in those 4 components. The CDIs were known good. I had swapped those into my brother-in-law's YFM 350 Moto 4, and they all started up and ran just fine. The handlebar controls, I had also ohmed through, plugged those in, and checked those out on my brother-in-law's ATV. So that was good. So that leaves me with stator and wiring harness. 2 wiring harnesses, both of them gone through, both of them had the same issue. Come down to the stator. The stator passed resistance tests within spec. 2 stators passed resistance tests in spec. Both of them were OEM off the quads as they came. One came off the burned out. I was running fine. Then it died. No spark. My mother's same issue when I parked it. It stopped starting. And I never troubleshot that one through down because I was going to tear everything apart, put everything back together. One of those stators I did an AC test on, and I was getting up to the connectors 50 volts or so. So ultimately, I really don't have a concrete answer other than to say I think I had 2 bad OEM stators, used OEM stators that passed resistance tests fine. I think if I get a little smarter, I got to be a little better at doing AC voltage tests to see how much voltage is actually getting to the CDI. I do now have a peak voltage tester, which I didn't have before. In the old manuals, they don't have numbers for AC voltage, so the best guesses I can go off of are from other Big Bear models. It just isn't a test included in the old Haynes and Clymer manuals. So I don't know, but I'm gonna go with my best guess is that I did in fact have a stator issue. It's my best guess. So we're darn close, Let's keep working on it. All right, next up, we're going to try and repair all of that. Cracked all the way back. Someone's tried to glue it. This side. Yeah, that's pretty nasty, but the plastic's thick, so we're going to try and come at it from the bottom. We're going to try and use this plastic repair kit. Haven't used one of these before. I've played with it, but I haven't tried to use this at scale. Try and melt these things in with the tool from the bottom. I mean, we're holding the basic structure in place here. You see how I've gone perpendicular to the cracks here. I'm going to try and do a few of these and twist this so I get a little more bite. I go less distance into the good meat, but more contact at the crack. So I got to walk this crack. Got to reinforce in the back. Reinforce here. Do a bunch more around this, but tell you what, my first thought, this could do a reasonably good job. And there we have it. Not bad at all. And it's really, what I like is it's clean. You can see the cracks here, but you don't have all the plastic like disheveled if I was trying to do plastic welding and melt everything together. I am probably gonna leave it like this, buff it and clean it. But we seem to have some pretty good structure, especially once we get all the fairings bolted on. That was pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Happy with that. That's the best plastic repair I think I've done. Now, I did also try it on a torn up fender, coming at it from the back side, and this is a different type of plastic, this flexible plastic. The trick is everything wants to separate, so you got to be careful here, because once the heat hits, everything wants to just curl back. So this is not bad either. It'll hold. So recognizing this, I'm going to use my snips, clean up all of this here, and I think I'm going to park it with that. I'm not going to try and go back over and with a like a soldering iron or plastic welder and melt all this. I think I'm going to see about leaving that. So a lot of details today. It kind of came out this morning. It's going to be a nice day. Going to be a nice weekend here this Saturday morning. And kind of going through remaining pieces here. It's just all down to details right now. I've got to convert this 1990 harness over to take the light plugs from the 87. As an example, on this burned out one, I'm going to convert over so we can do the OEM here. I've got to rip this apart because I need one of the studs in here. There's hexagon studs. I had two, but there's a third missing. Behind what I'm reconstructing here for the lights, I've got 1, 2 missing an anchor, because the back of these is how this whole piece pinches to the plastic. So I came back around with my grinder and touched up the back of these, because all of the little prongs that came out of the heating element tool were sticking out, and they were just going to really bite your fingers if you ever reached under anything on the trail. So same thing here. So now I can rub my hand down here, no risk. And this one here I haven't done, and yeah, these are sharp. Might be a little tough to get an angle on there, but I'm going to touch those, grind those down. Then we got to press these fender stabilizers in, get those mounted, and a lot of little things going on today. I took the opportunity to replace the mileage, I guess, odometer on it, because the one on there was broken, but coming off the parts quad, had a good one there. I got a lot of the fender flare screws drying, so they'll all have a nice semi-gloss cover on there, nice semi-gloss finish. And that's where a lot of this work is, because all those screws I had to go through, clean up the threads, clean up a lot of threads on the quad itself. It just slows you down. So because this is a 1990, the plugs coming off were just these bullet connectors, one set and second set. This is the style for the 1990. So what I did is I'm going to leave this one separate in case I want to wire in an LED to either the high beam or the low beam green, high beam yellow on my switch, everything controlled together. So I just created a harness with the factory plugs off the 87 into the other side here. Now, interestingly, when I turn on, I have voltage at low beam. I don't have voltage at high beam, so I might have some work to do there. I then also had to redo the harness going up into the lights here, because these sockets won't fit into that console. You see there's a difference here between the 87 and the 1990, and I couldn't get these to fit in. These are a different bulb. This is a press-in bulb. This is a press-in twist here. So I ended up cutting and splicing in, because the 87 harness, each of the brown legs, the common legs, are separate. Way back into the harness, all the way back midway through. On the 1990, that's one common up right to the bulbs, and then it splits off. Let me open this up and show you. So here you see I have swapped in, and each of the common legs here splices out down in here. So now I can fit these into the 87. And there's the alternative odometer with the non-broken spot there. And coming out this morning was just a lot of smaller details, getting the fairings marked back in, finding all of my bolts that I had everywhere. And then down in here you have these fairing stays, getting these mounted to the frame. Had to pull the wheels off. We have our rack painted and back on. We'll pull this tape off. And these are all the screws that are drying right now. Sorry. I had a missing screw on the side of the box here. Found that. There's a couple of holes here I'm going to try and plug up, so this is back to being semi-watertight. We have a new battery, and I have removable zip ties holding the battery on here. Cranks a lot better with this. Rear diff fluid is topped off. And the front fairing stays are mounted. It might be tough to see, but there's deer in the yard down by the beehive. They've been coming into the yard every day, 3 of them. Two smaller ones and a big doe. And they're eating all of the plants.
Yeah.
And Chloe just watches them. Well, that might prove tough to salvage, but we're going to try. I need that hexagon mount because I'm missing one in here. 1, 2, need a third. Those are the anchors to the plastics. Without it, I can't secure this bottom corner. You know what's crazy is I look around these plastics from the burned outside. Someone did tons of work. There are rivets everywhere, multiple pieces everywhere. Rivets, rivets, rivets. Someone put a sheet in here behind the lights when they did that. They added a panel. Rivets, rivets, rivets everywhere. And this is layers of fiberglass on top. I mean, those plastics are just beyond destroyed. And someone just made a huge effort to try and save these. All right, I got one. Let's see if we can get this back together now. All right, well, I think I'm now actually ready to put the front plastics back on. Low, high, almost. I actually had no idea if those headlights were going to work or not. So 2 low beams, 1 high beam. Not too bad. We are getting closer. I've got my other screw to hold this in, drying over there. That's not bad. I mean, try not to take another front end collision, but or roll it. That is not bad, having done that all from underneath. Pretty solid right there. We don't have a front luggage rack. We'll get this put back together. Let's see, these are going to be 2 smaller ones that are drying. Seat, I'm going to try and salvage some rubber bumpers. Off the burned out one, see if I might be able to do some of that, maybe. And I have to do fairings and rear fairings. And these came out really nice. These have been done with that combination of boiled linseed oil and lacquer thinner, and then hit with some SC1. Really came back pretty nice. I'm doing another pillage. I don't know what the heck happened here. It looks like the dog chewed it. Not my dog, somebody's dog. Just pulled off of that side, because this one's in better condition, I think. I like it more. So I'm going to lube this up, and we're going to put this one on from the burned out quad. I got parts everywhere, but not everything's good. You know, this looks nice, but these tabs snapped off, make that kind of unusable. But I've salvaged a lot. I've got a oil cooler, good oil cooler. Some of the fins, not too bad. That corner's a little bit, there's a stick stuck in the back there. All kinds of parts, and I've got the spare engine down in here. Just kind of get a tub to hold on, because I'll probably come back for pieces through here. But you see I have a good secondary clutch. All the pieces are zip tied together. Something good to hold on to. Middle gear. Save the whole clutch basket. So other than one side of this motor, having one side of the case, the starter side gear gonna need to be replaced or aluminum welded. Got an entire motor in there. Another box to go through with pieces, stators, some of the tubes to hook up to the airbox. Looks like part of a toolbox came with it. I've got lots of spare relays. Ah, boy. Oh, I can't wait to start getting all this cleaned up. That is just a mess. It's been driving me nuts. And for the small pieces coming off the motors, this is my daily ATV toolbox. But over here, when I start disassembling, I put everything in here. So you have the, I guess the separator gear for the clutch, swing arm mounts, foot peg, fuel pump, chain tensioner, assembly for the fuel filter, various gears, head bolts, case bolts, lug nuts, the shifting mechanism from high-low to reverse, couple of bolts from the tie rods. And then there's stuff that's probably going to get thrown. I mean, this is demolished. And I don't know about this one yet. It's an OEM plug. But they've got goop all over that light. So I think some of this stuff is a loss. But I'll put some of these relay covers on to protect. Put this plug on the bottom of the storage box in the back. I'll lose that if I don't grab it. But I'm going to park it there for now, because we're getting really close to the reveal. I mean, there's not a whole lot left to do here besides putting some fender flares on and topping off the oil. And yeah, so all right, tail end of this is right around the corner.